Hey everybody, this is Dr. David Wardy coming at you, and I'm with my main man, Dr. Nick. How are you, man?
Good to see you again, buddy. I'm doing well. Thank you.
And today is really exciting for us. We have one of our mentors here. This is a very special person to both me and Nick. We've learned boatloads of stuff from this individual that has really helped us just become better doctors, better human beings, better individuals, and just all around just helping us help more people on a daily basis.
Being able to speak to your mentor and colleague and friend is a joy. And it's been 3 years for us both, right, David, that we've got a chance to work with Dan. And so Dan, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So it's awesome to be here with you too.
So Dan, you've had a very familiar and very resonating story for so many of our patients, and not everybody knows your story, believe it or not, but we'd love to hear, like, why detox, why is this so important now, and if you can, we'll just give you the mic. You speak so eloquently on it.
Yeah, no, look, it got my life back, right? And pain to purpose is my story. I didn't choose this. I always say it chose me, to bring out what the world needs. So many people don't feel well. Just simple loss of energy, brain fog, hormone disruption, can't lose weight anymore. It's a new epidemic. Everybody's trying to take hormones, figure it out. Gut problems, how many are trying to figure that out? When really it's an upstream issue of some type of neurotoxin. One thing when I teach, right, if something is still remaining upstream, causative wise, you may feel a little better, but you're not going to get well lasting. And, my story was that I couldn't find out what was wrong. I was trying to fix my adrenals, which were fried. I couldn't adapt to any stress. My thyroid was shot, but yet I would test my blood work and it was normal, but my hair's falling out, right? I'm getting skinny fat. All these bizarre hormonal changes, can't sleep at night, insomnia, panic attacks, anxiety, horrible existence, and couldn't figure it out. At a certain point, I thought, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's in my head, right? As it turned out, it was in my head, but it was silver fillings that have 50% mercury, and literally was just bioaccumulating most of my life in my brain. It's always a perfect storm. 3 stressors. 3 neurotoxic stressors, could be an emotional stressor, but when 3 storms come together, a catastrophic storm occurs. And that's what happens when people, all of a sudden, the bottom falls out. And that's what happened to me. After I got 2 fillings removed, that was it. I just went overboard, but I didn't know. I never correlated it back to that till 4 years later, that it was when they drilled out those 2 fillings. I still had probably 6 in my mouth. But that just set my bucket overflowing and triggered my perfect storm.
Dan, can you speak a little bit to the 5R's that you teach and how important that is as part of this process to effectively get your body to dump this stuff out?
Real detox has to be at the cell, right? When you go into Whole Foods and those places, they're all poopers, right? You get on these things and you poop more and you go, I feel better, right? The juice cleanse, this cleanse, that cleanse, and none of it is high enough upstream to where the problem is, right? That's the cell. When you evaluate someone not feeling well, the problem is their cell's not doing what it should do day in, day out, and that's get rid of toxins. When you make energy in your cell, you make a smoke, right? It's a byproduct of making energy, and the cell has to get rid of that day in, day out. Okay, so there's pathways that are very important for cell function and detoxing the cell. The 5R's is a roadmap that I've been teaching for years on what to do to fix that and upregulate these cell functions. So very quickly, it's R1 is you have to remove the source, right? If I didn't get rid of these fillings correctly, I would have never got my life back. It's still going in my brain, the mercury. If you live in a moldy home, good luck, right? If you have hidden infections in your jaw, which that's a whole other subject, you won't get well. These are finding out what is upstream, R1. R2 is regenerating the cell membrane. Critical. You can't detox a cell or even fix your hormones, whatever it is, without regenerating the membrane. So as you know, we study this stuff. We teach classes on it. And then R3 is you have to restore the cell energy. Look, every detox function of the cell needs enough ATP energy. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. I don't care how many poopers you do. I don't care how many shots of glutathione you do. You need that cell energy. There's something called the Gibbs free energy equation, which means as energy drops in the cell, which is toxic people, something called glutathione drops in the cell, which you need for the cell to get rid of toxins, and inflammation increases. So if we upregulate the energy, we can upregulate the glutathione, we can downregulate inflammation, which brings me to R4 is reducing inflammation, which a lot of our fasting strategies, diet strategies are part of that picture. And then the last R is R5, reestablishing something called methylation, a huge topic. Just know this, it parallels the ability for the cell to detox. If it's down, you can't detox. So that's where real detox is. That's what I want your listeners and viewers to understand. You know, that's how you fix your hormones. That's how you get your brain working. It's how you get your energy back. You know, and that roadmap gives us practitioners, this is what we need to fix. That's one of my pet peeves too, is people go, oh, I did heavy metal detox. For how long? A month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. It's years, not months. That stuff bioaccumulated in my brain in utero. When you look at studies, right, and you heard it talk about the DRAS study, the number of fillings in mom's mouth is proportional to how much on autopsies, very accurate, how much mercury they find in the baby's brain, right? And that's the reality as we start building it through that year. So to think it's going to come out in 6 months is absurd. I pulled mercury out of my brain consistently for 4 years. So what I always tell you doctors is, look, it's our job to empower the people, to educate them in this process, right? I mean, that's what is not happening. Doctors want to treat you. You don't need more treatments. You need to learn this process. If you learn the process, you're going to do it long enough to matter. I just want to show this, and then this will be in context to your question. If I can draw this without losing it. Okay, you know I draw terrible stools, but the analogy of a three-legged stool is pretty easy for people to understand. All 3 legs have to be there, otherwise this stool's falling over, right? When we look at how people get sick today, we have 3 things that have to be in place, and then the bottom falls out, right? And most people deal with this at some point. We know that genes play a role in illness, but the Time magazine, your DNA is not your destiny, meaning most of the genes get triggered, turned on. We'll talk about that because that's what happens to a thyroid person, an autoimmune like your wife, right, David? Maybe a gut issue. It could be diabetes. These genes of susceptibility get triggered. So we know that's an aspect. Here's the missing science that people ignore, is that they can be turned off, right? I mean, we know a lot of those 5R's that we discussed in the beginning is the magic of turning off these genes that get triggered. So you won't get rid of your thyroid. Weight loss resistance, that's a gene that can be triggered on. We got to turn them off. But here's the problem. If this leg, we'll call it stressors. So physical, chemical, or emotional stressors will turn on that gene stressor, to your point, that you didn't adapt to, that you should have. And then it triggers the gene. So how do we turn off the gene? Yeah, we have strategies there, but we have to remove the stressors. The last leg that most people are very in tune to today is the gut. So your gut, the microbiome, right? All these bacteria that we realize are, have a massive effect on your immune system, for good, for bad. How your brain works, for good, for bad. This communication between this brain, and they call this the second brain. Well, look, today this is under attack from chemicals as well, right? And other issues. But we have to fix this in order to turn the genes off too, because these bacteria communicate with your genes, believe it or not. So the point is this is how we get sick. A bad gut, bad microbiome, certain stressors that build up and we don't adapt to your point, and then a gene that gets triggered. But herein lies the solution, right? If you thought about the 5R's we discussed, applies here. The cellular detox, removing these stressors, applies here. And now this one is another unique conversation. Fasting in certain strategies is really how we fix the gut.
And what are some other ways that people can utilize this type of therapy? And detox is obviously one of those cornerstones.
Yeah, no doubt. And in this multi-therapeutic approach, detox being part of it. But when we look at one of the most powerful things you can do that costs you nothing is fasting, by adding just even one 5-day fast in. Now that could be just water, but if it's your first fast, do what we call partial fast, where you are eating, but we're just lowering your protein, your carbs and your calories down below 800 calories a day, very limited. But when you look at studies, this is a stress that you're adding that we know decreases drastically your risk of cancer. And that's according to one of the top cancer researchers, Thomas Seyfried, right? So we know that it gets rid of cells that are causing inflammation in your body and just make you feel horrible during a fast. And again, I believe that we are programmed genetically to fast. And when we're not fasting, when we don't fast, here again, ancient cultures, they were forced into times of famine or fasting. They were. And what happens is we reset our bad genes that we talked about, right? So those genes that get triggered because of all the stressors, emotional, chemical. Well, our body has a plan, fasting or famine, because it resets them. It's awesome. So when you put that in with the detox, you see the point. Okay, well, you know, that's one of the magics. Well, guess what? We talked about the microbiome, how important it is to have this healthy, diverse microbiome, to have a normal immune system, have normal brain function. Well, guess what? You know, a fast resets those bacteria. It's a stress on them that makes them stronger and better. Bad cells don't adapt, right? It's just like anything else. You know, you stress it. What you're left with at the end of a fast is stronger, more adapted cells. There's the 2016 Nobel Prize was won by a Japanese gentleman for the word autophagy. I'm sure you guys have talked about this, but autophagy means in a fasted state, the body will get rid of all of the bad cells that drive inflammation and all the problems you're dealing with. Okay, so as we age, we develop more of these cells. They're called senescent cells, right? We can measure them and go, this person feels like crap. How do you know? Look how many senescent cells they have. These are cells that live too long, cause mischief, inflammation, dysfunction, all of it. Well, what do we do about this? Well, one of the things we can do is fast, because it gets rid of your body's so smart that it doesn't go after the healthy cells for energy, because it needs energy to live in a fasted state, right? It takes these bad cells and crushes them and uses the energy, uses the proteins to heal and regenerate. And here's the best part of it all. It replaces them. It activates a stem cell, which creates a new cell, and it replaces that old damaged cell with a brand new cell that doesn't overreact, that doesn't cause mischief and inflammation. So we need this renewing. If you fast once a year, now I fast 4 times a year. You know, I take it to the extreme of anti-aging, but I've reversed, my wife and I both, our cellular age. We have drastically, you know, so aging can be massively slowed. And more importantly, the diseases that go around aging, right? I don't want to live longer. I want to do it healthy.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. And you know, I want to highlight your book, because some people, when they hear the word fasting, that, you know, the alarm bells go off. Dr. Dan Pompa wrote an amazing, so heavily researched, so thorough. If you're gonna need, well, we all need to learn how to do this. You need a resource. So you need to get onto Amazon, right, Dan? I think you can get, is that the, I mean, it's probably the best place to get it.
I purposely didn't put on Amazon yet, because,
okay.
well, there's a reason, because if you end up going to publisher, blah, 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 but you can go to beyondfastingbook.com.
Perfect.
And get the book.